Well, what do you know? The Netflix's The Witcher executive producer brings up some interesting and logical points. Wes, hi everybody, and welcome to yet another video, my dear Witcher fans. Now, this article right here is one of the most interesting ones I have read in days, and I have decided to make a video about it because a lot of people out there on the internet are going to misinterpret it or just go reading all about it and all over the place. And you know why? Mainly because they are only going to read the headline of the article and then go, oh, he's insulting Americans. But it is important each and every time when you are trying to read some news to actually read the news. Now, it comes from Bounding Into Comics, an American website. So this, of course, means that they are going to be a little bit biased against this. But let us dive in, because the person in question, Tomek Baginski, who has been working on The Witcher by Netflix and the video games, has brought some interesting points, but it needs to be prefaced first by saying, well, if you've been following my channel for quite some time, you know that I am far from being a fan of the Netflix's Witcher. I have been a lifelong fan of Andrzej Sapkowski and his books, and I have reread the entire Witcher of Wiedźmin saga in Polish multiple times, as well as in Czech, my first mother tongue. And I have seen some episodes of The Witcher of the first and second season, and no, I will be staying away as much as possible from this abhorrent, badly made show that is not staying close to the source material at all, and will rather reread the books over and over again. This being said, you have to stay objective each and every single time, and when somebody says something that brings up interesting, logical, and truthful points, you have to acknowledge it. So the headline that many people will say that is very insulting and will share it on the internet without reading the rest goes, Netflix's The Witcher EP Tomek Baginski says a series made simplifications to the source material primarily because American audiences would not grasp a higher level of nuance and complexity. Well, I have to agree with that. But if you want to go more into it, you have to read. Asked by the outlets Radosław Czyż for his thoughts regarding how some people criticized the show for making up weird plots that changed what worked well in the books, the series EP opined in turn, but when you start discussing it, it usually turns out the screenwriters thought the solution out, that it's not completely crazy. Now, I have to be against this a little bit, because the screenwriters, I mean, they don't think things out for the right reasons. Usually, they might sometimes, and in some adaptations, it makes an absolute sense, the changes that they do to the source material, but it's just a minority of the cases. And it continues, it's no secret that we, the series production team and fans, often disagree, said Baginski, per a translation of the interview provided by the fantasy-centric news outlet Redanian Intelligence. Things are created in the discussion. Yes, and before I continue, I wanted to read the original interview in Polish, but there's a paywall, and I'm not going to pay for just reading one article. So I have to rely on the translation by Redanian Intelligence as well. Otherwise, I would have read it by myself in Polish. Michał Newiara, who is our tester, does a great job. He checks what fits the world from books. Sometimes we get such a long list of things from him because in many places we went in a different direction. But there's a reason for it every time. Sometimes the changes are the result of production chaos because, for example, an actor fell ill and his plot needs to be edited and rewritten within a few hours so that it can be shot the next day because this is not a plot for which the whole production machine will stop, he explained. Now, production problems, production chaos. That might not be the best excuse in the world. recently I have watched a behind-the-scenes movie about the movie John Carpenter's The Thing. And you get to know how complicated the production of that film was. Like, extremely. That must have been one of the most complicated films to make in the history of movie making. For example, they were making a scene where, of course, they used puppets and practical effects. Because, it was the 1980s and they didn't use computers as much. And so they were preparing a scene for a week with a puppet and with machines and with all kinds of different things that you have seen the thing. And they only had one take and they messed up the take. So they had to go through all this process again. And so that's how much work and love went into filmmaking in the past. Now it's just speed. Just make it as soon as possible, as cheaply as possible. So, that's the difference between movie making today and back then. And it continues, there are a lot of understandable reasons why controversial decisions are made, but the viewer does not have this context, so sometimes it hurts because something was better in the book. Attempting to provide more context to this argument, Baginski then recalled how he had the same perceptual block when I presented Hardcore 44, his alternate history take on the Warsaw Uprising of World War II abroad years ago. I tried to explain there was an uprising against Germany, but the Russians were across the river, and on the German side, there were also soldiers from Hungary or Ukraine. He said, for Americans, it was completely incomprehensible, too complicated, because they grew up in a different historical context where everything was arranged. America is always good, the rest are the bad guys. There are no complications. And, you have to put your hand on your heart, on your chest, and say that's true. Now, I have never seen more divided country and at the same time more black or white country, in that sense that there is no nuance as far as these things go for the American people, for the American audience. They very often tend to think in terms, I am right, you are wrong. And it goes with everything. It's not only we Americans are good and the rest of the world is bad. It's you, my dear friends from the United States of America, you tend to be divided in many ways, in many cases, and you just are not willing to discuss anything or see other points of view. And before you start, no, it's not just the left. It's also the right. It's everybody. I have expressed on social media many opinions, and on social network many opinions that could be approached from various points of view, from various socio-political stances, and that I don't really stand on anybody's side because nobody's on my side. I'm always using my common sense. I'm always using my knowledge of history and society and art and the world. And I am expressing my own, very often, very own personal opinions that are really not falling within any of the group in the United States of America. And everybody, I have come to realize, I have come to know, everybody gets insulted without the difference. It's okay when you make fun of other people, but when you are suddenly making fun of a certain group that has agreed with you up to that time, you're done. So you have to give him that. Baginski, he's right about this one. And he continues, thus said the Knights of the Zodiac 2023 director, when a series is made for a huge mass of viewers with different experiences from different parts of the world, and a large part of them are Americans, these simplifications not only make sense, they are necessary. Once again, in some context, yes. So it makes sense. However, see, it is important to approach things from different points of view and to really use your bloody brain that you should have in your head. This shouldn't stop you from staying faithful to the source material. This should not be your only excuse or your main excuse. If somebody doesn't understand something complicated, then sod them. They can go and be stupid all they want. It shouldn't be your problem. But then again, this is just my opinion. And it continues, it's painful for us and for me too, but the high level of nuance and complexity will have a smaller range. It won't reach people, he ultimately asserted. Sometimes it may go too far, but we have to make these decisions and accept them. As noted by Redanian Intelligence, this is the second such time that Baginski has discussed that his belief that The Witcher needed to be simplified in order to engage a wider audience. Speaking with YouTube channel Impoderbilia in 2022, Baginski detailed how we resigned from cause and effect chains from linear narration, this book-like narration. When it comes to shows, the younger the public is, the logic of the plot is less significant. Pressed by his host for an idea as to what is significant to younger audiences, the creator asserted just emotions, just pure emotions, a bad emotional mix. Those people grew up on TikTok and YouTube. They jump from video to video. Ultimately, Baginski closed out his thoughts by addressing this next generation of viewers, declaring, "Dear children, what you do to yourself makes you less resilient for longer content, for long and complicated chains of cause and effect." 100% true. People are getting more stupid. People's attention span is getting shorter and shorter. People don't care about the quality in most cases, or any deeper thought in most cases. They care about consuming flashing images on screen for a couple of minutes, because this is all they can take in one take, so to speak. This being said, once again, this is no excuse. If you can't catch up, if you can't stay up to speed, it's your problem. If you want to be stupid, be stupid. So, that's it. Let me know in the comments down below what you think. Once again, the comment section is going to be interesting on this one. And that'll be all. Thank you very much for watching. And Maria.